go to it. The Eurozone saw marginal upturn in growth business activity in October. According to the flash PMI, rose from a 10-month low of 52 to 52.2, signaling an upturn in the pace of expansion. Manufacturing output expansion at the highest rate for 3 months, while growth of the service sector activity was unchanged on the 6-month low seen in September. Moreover, although output rose at a slightly faster rate, new orders barely rose in October, registering the smallest monthly improvement since orders began rising in August. By countries, France saw business activity fall for a 6th consecutive month, deterioration at faster rate since September. Rates of decline accelerated slightly in both manufacturing and services. New business and employment suffered the largest falls since June and April. To the next country, there was better news out of Germany, where the PMI rose to its highest for 3 months, while services saw the slowest pace of expansion since June. Growth of manufacturing output rebounded to a 3-month high. However, German companies also report that new business rose at the slowest pace since September of last year. And a comment from Dr. Williamson again. The Eurozone PMI rose in October, but anyone just watching the headline numbers missed the dark picture painted by the survey's other indicators, which show the region teetering on the verge of another downturn, in other words, recession. The growth of new orders slowed close to stagnation, and backlogs of work fell at a fast pace, causing employment to be cut for the first time in nearly a year. Business confidence in the service sector also slid to its lowest over the year, the fastest ratio since the height of the financial crisis, the Depression, in other words. While the survey suggests that the Eurozone has so far avoided a slide back into recession this year, growth is anemic. And let's see. The only marginal and the reduction in headcount was noticeable in being the first since November of last year. That's 2013. Prices were increasingly being cut in order to help boost sales. Charges for services fell at steepest rate since 2010. Price cutting occurred despite overall input costs rising in October. The surveys are basically consistent with GMP rising at 0.25 in Q3, unless weaker demand picks up soon. This is basically it for the Eurozone. We'll leave the Eurozone and move on here very quickly to Amazon. Amazon is an indicator of future retail machinations within the U.S., particularly during the holiday season, which we've always maintained is not a very good situation. In other words, you're putting all, what's the old proverbial antidote, eggs in one package. But this is from Seattle. Operating capital flow increased at 15% to $5.7 billion, compared with $4.98 billion there. Free cash flow at $1.8 billion, trailing 12 months. Net income increased 20% to $20.58 billion in Q3, compared with $17 billion in Q3 of 2013. Operating loss was $544 million in Q3, compared with an operating loss of $25 million in Q3 of 13. Net loss was $450 $37 billion in Q3 there. So in other words, let's get the highlights here, and we'll finish with Amazon. Amazon announced their new Kindle, indicated their Flash HD Kids Edition. This is some devices they have put out there. And what else have they announced? They even have a comedy out. They've been doing various things. They acquired Twish Interactive with 55 million unique visitors. Not even heard of it. Amazon launched Pay with Amazon in India. So in other words, they're into many different things at many different times. Net sales expected to be between 27.3 million and 30 million, to grow between 7 and 18% compared with this is in Q4 14 compared with 13. Operating income loss is expected to be between 570 million to 430 million compared to 510 million. Now this business is going into a mature business, but again, you have some losses. We'll dispense with Amazon and one other item we had here. Well, we'll get to the European banks here. This is from Mario Draghi. He is the president of the EU Central Bank. And these are the banks with their 25 lenders in the European Central Bank Euro Bank Health Check. Same as a stress test. 105 banks are shown passing the review according to a draft of the lenders that failed. About 10 will face capital shortfalls. The two-part review forms one pillar there, and Mr. Draghi. Ireland to pass the asset quality review, which scrutinizes the asset side of the balance sheet. As of December 31 last year, the bank the EU can't comment on speculation about the outcome there. And the Eurozone's largest banks will show a 6 billion euro, $7.6 billion gap. Failures concentrate, as we suspected, in Greece, Italy, and Spain. Deutsche Bank, the largest lender, will pass the stress test, according to people knowledgeable about it. And that is where the Eurozone is left. And back to the BBC here, and we'll hit some of the highlights here of where people are. A job protests in Italy. Reforms there are not being well received. To make, as they would call it, the Italy more business friendly, which is a euphemism. The UK GDP rose 0.7 in Q3. We'll go over it. The UK growth slowed in 3 months to September, with the economy expanding at 0.7. This is from their Office of National Statistics. The figure was weaker than the 0.9 expansion recorded for Q2. Economists have correctly predicted that the economy would expand at 0.7 in July to September period. The gross national product was 3% higher in the 3 months than in the same period in 2013. The Chancellor George Osborne said that the growth in manufacturing and construction as well as in services was very encouraging. The UK is leading the pack in increasingly uncertain global economy. The Shadow Secretary, Ed Boyles, said the GDP figures reveal a concerning slowdown in economic growth. Most people are still not feeling the recovery. growth of 0.7 is still good. It works out to 3%. 3% growth is pretty good, better than obviously France and Germany. Output in dominant service sector rose by 0.7, down from 1.1. It was up 0.5 in production and 0.8% in construction and 0.3 in agriculture. From the World Bank, Jeremy Cook said it was respectable. He added headwinds from the current slowing of output in Europe and China are obviously dangers to the UK growth. This is the interconnectability of these various economies. Sterling rose 0.15 to $1.6056 there, and that is 78.82 pence for those that were interested. Now let's see, grab onto some other things. Property prices declined in China. They needed to decline there in September. China said its property prices fell 1.3 in September, marking the first year-on-year fall in the sector. Government measures property prices across its 70 biggest cities. Now, those 70 biggest cities can't be compared to anything but in most countries. They're very, very large indeed. In fact, they're cities that we know nothing virtually about that are larger than 90% of the cities in America. New home prices in 67 cities have slowed a month-to-month drop there compared to 68 in September to August. The housing sector accounts for some 15% of the Chinese economy. When it grows at a slower pace, 3 months since 2009, property development in China has also, developers have been cutting prices. Very good indeed. The latest numbers for house prices marked the 5th consecutive drop. They needed to drop. They were overly inflated there and causing pressures in the countryside. The media reported housing prices in 58 of the 70 cities were lower than a year ago, and they need to go to new home prices in Beijing and Shanghai dropped 0.9 and 0.1 and 1.1 respectively. The analyst Wang Tao from UBS in Hong Kong said the property sector slowdown was still the main drag there. They need to have that particular quote-unquote drag. The negative impact of the ongoing property downturn is being felt not only in heavy industry production, but also in manufacturing investment. He said the property downturn was the biggest threat to China's growth, but he said the huge control of the Chinese authorities over the economy, and they should increase that control, not decrease it. And moving on, it grew at 7.3% in the 3 months to September, the slowest pace since the first 3 months of 2009. All right, we've taken care of China here, and Microsoft profits also fell. We won't really get into that. Let's check on our time here. We're doing all right time-wise, and so we've covered China and Ford. Their truck sales fell. This is to the automotive sector. In the new F-15, they retooled plants in Dearborn, Michigan. 5 weeks at it. In the quote-unquote old days, they used to do it all the time. The U.S. car giant, this is from BBC incidentally, Boss, Mark Fields, during the third quarter, we will continue to introduce an unprecedented number of new vehicles. We continued, we're in Q4 now, and invested heavy in new products and technologies. In the first 9 months of the year, Ford made a net profit of $3.1 billion. Next year is forecasting significantly higher profit